Alright everybody, welcome back to Culz Book Reviews. Today we are checking out this Jurassic Park 3 Junior novelization by Ciencin. Now this one comes at a time where there wasn't a lot of movie novelizations, not like back in the day, 80s, 90s, where you'd get a movie novelization based off of pretty much any of the big Hollywood movies. The Jurassic Park series always got some junior novelizations. I mean, obviously they are based off of the Jurassic Park and the Lost World Jurassic Park books by Michael Crichton. Now, I hadn't read this one in a long time. Honestly, probably since at least elementary school. But with this week being sort of dinosaur themed, I thought this would be the perfect book to do a review on, to keep that theme alive. So before we get to the breakdown, let's check out the book itself. Alright, so we'll take a look at the cover. Obviously, we got the Jurassic Park 3 logo up top there. And then right there, we got a nice look at the new Spinosaurus. At least it was new to the franchise. Right there, we got adapted by Scott Ciencin, based on a motion picture screenplay written by Peter Buckman, and based on the characters created by Michael Crichton. On the side, we just got Jurassic Park 3. We can see a random house, as well as a little logo. On the back, we can see that logo again, and some pictures. Obviously, the two animatronics, the T-Rex and the Spinosaurus. We got a picture of Dr. Alan Grant. We got the movie logos and your ISBN if you need that. So the book clocks in at a whole 116 pages. Not the shortest, but not the longest book we've read either. Being a junior novelization, it's mainly words, but we do get that little middle section with some pictures from the film itself. But yeah, let's get to my thoughts. Alright, so now we're back. We're going to talk about the book, which is going to have spoilers, but obviously if you've seen the actual 2001 film Jurassic Park 3, I would say for the most part you're going to know some of this. But I did make some notes on some things that were different or perhaps expanded on in this book. And I think that is where we're going to have the most fun kind of discussing this one, is seeing how the movie and the book differs. Which perhaps I will be doing a actual proper video at some point. But for now, let's get started. So the book does open up the same way. Obviously, Eric and Ben are going paragliding around Isla Sorna. But what's different this time is we get an inner monologue from Eric. And I do think this actually adds more to both how he feels about, obviously, the divorce of his parents, as well as Ben. And I also found out, I guess I'm kind of old, since he said 30 is kind of old in the book, so kind of made me sad. But getting past that, Ben is an extreme sports guy, and Eric thinks his dad kind of just got too boring for his mom. Now the boat gets attacked, obviously they get stranded, and we jump to the mainland with Dr. Alan Grant. And again, I gotta say there's quite a bit of actual decent additional insight into the characters. Extra dialogue, the interactions with Ellen and Alan and Mark seem different, and I think you can sense more of an uncomfortable nature of the encounter. Also, towards the end, there's a scene where Ellie's at the car, much like in the movie, but they're talking a little bit longer. And Ellie, says, sometimes you gotta evolve. We'll come back to that. And then the story, goes down pretty much the same way. Grant returns to the dig site, meets Billy, running close to out of funds a couple weeks away. Billy shows him the resonating chamber that he printed out of the 3D printer. And of course, Paul and Amanda Kirby show up, or they head off to Site B. On the way to Site B, there is no Alan scene. There's no scene with the raptor saying Alan in this book. So there's one difference right there. And also, kind of the interactions on the plane start to differ. You start to get a little sense that maybe this was, a little bit earlier in the script. I don't know, it just felt like some of the characters were more fleshed out or had more of a character arc in this one than in the film itself. And ever since the Rex Spino fight, there has been pushback as far as, it was a bad fight. We'll get to the fight scene. But also, it was just a small T-Rex, right? A small Tyrannosaurus. Well, look what the book says. With a low, shuddering growl, a full-grown bull Tyrannosaurus Rex rose up from behind the carcass. So yeah, it's supposed to be the full-grown bull. And while the Tyrannosaurus is eating the dead sauropod here, when it does see the group start to scatter and run away, it does prefer, it says, fresh meat to the rotting carcass. So I guess it kind of flies in the face of the whole scavenger theory that was kind of prevalent, especially with Jack Horner on board at the time and being what his theories were. We also get, at this point, the clearest size of the Spinosaurus, which is listed here. The dinosaur was nearly 50 feet long and over 16 feet high. And the cell itself was 5 feet. And if you think about it, the one chart said 43 feet. That's not nearly 50 feet. So now that we've seen both sizes, we can see that perhaps they indeed did downsize both the Spinosaurus and the Tyrannosaurus in those official size charts due to the backlash they received from the fans. I mean, heck, the poor Spinosaurus has not been able to even come back into live action Jurassic Park. I know it was in Camp Cretaceous, but no live action appearances, or even like a Hammond collection Spinosaurus, since the fight. Now, the fight itself does actually differ quite a bit, and we know that earlier on, especially we do have some deleted scenes, there was a different fight planned for the film. In here, the Rex and Spinosaurus just kind of clash together. There isn't that big, like, bite to the Spinosaurus' neck, which brings it to the ground. They're upright, they're just bashing against each other, roaring. And the Rex actually does get quite a bit of hits on and is pushing the Spinosaurus back. Like, the Rex is putting up a decent fight in this one. It's slamming its tail and whipping its tail and pushing the Spinosaurus back. Now, it doesn't say that the Rex had its neck broke. Perhaps this is because this is the junior novelization, right? But as Alan's running, the Rex, who is listed as wounded, falls to the ground, and the Spinosaurus finishes off by grabbing it on its, like, underneath of its neck. So I guess sort of similar. I know at one point there's supposed to be like blood like gushing out the. I don't know. It was supposed to be pretty brutal. Death scene with like Grant getting covered in blood. Doesn't happen here, but we do have that difference there. Jumping forward, when they're walking through, that compound, which at one point I know is supposed to be the worker village and then got changed. We do see here that Alan looks at a car window and he's kind of unnerved and thinks of a head, hitting him, kind of busting it open. So obviously that does seem like it is harkening back to the Lost World scene where Ian is in the car and the Velociraptor is wiggling its nose through the broken window. Now, I know I did give it props earlier for the Rex going for fresh meat versus the rotting carcass, but Eric does mention seeing a Rex scavenge its prey. So, I don't know, 50-50. But much like any large predator, if it finds an easy meal, it's going to take it up, right? It doesn't want to get hurt, doesn't want to risk injury. If it can find an easy meal, it will. We just know there's been a lot of controversy regarding the whole Rex feeding habits. Jumping quite a bit further, the stealing of the raptor's eggs was written different in this book. It wasn't just out of, hey, we could sell them at profit, but throughout the whole book, Billy is really studying and on, we'll get to the characters, but really interested in the raptor behavior. And this is something that's come up. This is something Grant's mentioned, that he's working on a raptor paper about their behavior. And so Billy's just really trying to help Grant and the dig. He figures, hey, if I bring this back, we have a raptor that we can study on the mainland. And we can learn some amazing behaviors from it. So definitely written down a little bit different there. Now we jump to a lot of people's favorite scene from this film. That's a pteranodon scene, obviously in the bird cage. The Pteranodon here was listed with a 45-foot wingspan, like massive. I mean, a little bit bigger than Quetzalcoatlus, as far as modern science. But what's kind of intriguing about that is Eric says Pteranodons weren't supposed to be this large and must have been genetically engineered. And so it's kind of implying that perhaps the Pteranodons here were the first genetically engineered or genetically modified prehistoric creatures in Jurassic World. I mean, sure, we can get all that, they're mixed with frog DNA, they're all genetically modified, but I just thought it was interesting that the book itself made a point, not only, obviously, the Spinosaurus isn't on InGen's list, but now the Pteranodons are genetically engineered to be bigger than normal, so I just thought that was an interesting plot point, and, had they made a Jurassic Park 4 versus waiting as long as they did and making Jurassic World, this definitely seems like a good storyline to continue. Like, who was doing this? We've never really got a good payoff. We did get a little bit of information who might have been doing it, but I feel like, kind of based on what this book is leading at, that this was supposed to be bigger than it turned out to be. He also says, and I know this gets a lot of flack, Pteranodons couldn't lift a person. In the book, Eric says a true Pteranodon wouldn't be able to lift him. And this one outweighed a actual Pteranodon by a lot. And so there, again, we go into, it feels like they were definitely building up to something with these Pteranodons and genetic engineering and kind of a, who's doing this? We'll get into, at some point, maybe the unused Jurassic Park 4. There was quite a few different scripts, and it does feel like it was progressing that way. And, reading this, I might have been intrigued to see it. I would, 100%, I'm always pro real dinosaurs versus the crazy stories we were getting, but I think had the book followed this one, much like a lot of movie books, there's a lot of plot lines you're like, why did they cut that out, That one's interesting, and obviously they just decided to go a different way. They didn't make a big deal of it, and we didn't really get that gigantic Pteranodon in the film. Something else at this point I had noted, and I've forgotten to note earlier, was they do use the 65 million years ago a lot. At the time, that was the thinking, but now we think it is closer to 66 million years ago that the dinosaurs went extinct, so just a quick little note. Jumping forward, the Spinosaurus comes, attacks, in the boat scene, phenomenal. The Spinosaurus is great, I wish we'd see it again. But jumping towards the end, the Pteranodons actually return at the end, where the group, including Paul Kirby, attack them, which then draws in the raptors who attack the Pteranodons attack the raptors. Much different ending. It's like, whoa. And then, it leads into the whole group gets away from that scene. The rest of the raptors circle them. They give the eggs. The raptors get scared because they hear the chopper noises. And again, the ending differs too, with the Pteranodons actually flying in formation with the chopper for a little bit, and then they fly away, much like we see in the movie. But here we do get a little kind of conclusion with Alan, who gets to put on the headphones and gets to talk to Ellie. She was saying, well, this whole time you said, that island isn't a place for, paleontologists. And he says, well, I'm evolving. So we get a little payoff there, and you can see that kind of going full circle from the beginning. Now, throughout the book, I did note 3 different dinosaurs that appeared here that did not appear in the film. At least 2 for certain. We don't know if the second one did because of its state, but we do get to see it a little bit more here. The first of these to appear, and the first one, Grant and the Team C, when they arrive to Site B, is the Apatosaurus. So we see the Apatosaurus early. I thought perhaps it replaced the Brachiosaurus, but at the river scene we still get that scene with the Ankylosaurus and the Brachiosaurus, though there it lists the Corythosaurus as wandering, so we can see that they were planning on having those ones here as well, versus just in the Raptor Stampede. Now the second one, yeah, perhaps it is what it is in the film, but it's the Datasaurus. It is a dead sauropod laying, its eyes are open, fixed, just kind of glazed over in the sky, and this is what the Tyrannosaurus is scavenging on when the group comes upon it. Now, obviously, in the film, we don't get a good look at whatever the carcass is, but we also don't get to see the sauropod, like, its eyes fixated up in the air or anything like that, and it's not a dinosaur that's ever been mentioned in the Jurassic World lore, so I thought that was interesting. And then the third one, I'd say one that obviously finally got its appearance in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, but not only did it appear in the Lost World Jurassic Park, but the Carnotaurus actually appears in this one as well. It does take the place of the Ceratosaurus, where, you know, they're digging through the poop or whatever, and the Ceratosaurus comes up in the movie, sniffs them, walks away. Here it's the Carnotaurus. Comes up, pretty much same interaction, but it was just interesting to see it there, especially because earlier on, when we see the dinosaurs, the toy dinosaurs, and Grant's like, these two are carnivores. They're gonna rip off, they're gonna thrash each other's throats or whatever. It's listed as one of them is the Carnotaurus, so kind of just some good foreshadowing there. And like I said, the Carnotaurus would eventually get its appearance in the Jurassic Park World franchise in Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. Talking about differences, Paul Kirby definitely seems like a little bit different of a character. He makes extra jokes. When the Spinosaurus initially attacks him in the plane and then backs off, he makes a joke about sardines in a can, which obviously the group kind of scoffs at, like, it's not the right time. But early on, he does seem a bit more sketchy, and then we see that character progression where he feels bad Billy died, instead of, he's like, this should have been me. I should have been the one protecting Eric. And then he does, make that, heroic stand on the crane in this one as well. Speaking of Billy, he does show a ton of awe at the dinosaurs. Like, there's quite a few scenes where Billy's just, like, in awe and, like, just more in, like, inspired. Like, and I was like, I feel like we should have added that one in too. It just seems like something that just adds a little bit to the character, right? Eric, when he's found by Alan Grant, Alan says he's more wild. He seems more dirty than when he appears in the film, and his eyes and appearance make him seem almost animalistic. And again, there is some inner monologue from Eric where he even recognizes, hey, I'm a little too, like, animalistic or just wild. I need to try to connect again, because he's been in the wilderness for so long. Amanda, a lot less screaming. There was a lot of screaming in the movie. And here, a lot less. Definitely seems more sympathetic and shows a lot of more real human emotions. And just seems worried. Obviously, her son's in the wilderness. Especially, like, when she finds out Eric's on his own. She doesn't go running because the skeleton hits her. She just, like, really breaks down, has, like, an emotional, just, like, cathartic breakdown in a way, and just, like, is so worried. She wanders off, and that's when they come across the raptor eggs. And one last one is the Pteranodon. They almost gave the one a character. I mean, it was giant, it was genetically engineered, and it needed prey. It's been stuck in this cage, it's malnourished, it's angry, and we get to see the whole scene where it's moving around after the group escapes, and it figures out how to get out of the cage. And again, I feel like this is the path they were wanting to go on. And for whatever reason, Jurassic Park 4 stalled, and they just never were able to make that right for script. But it seems like they definitely had an idea where they wanted to take this story next. Especially with the Pteranodons flying off at the end. I don't know. Those were just some of my notes I took. I actually had a really good time reading this. I haven't read this one, like I said, in a while. It's a very short read. I read this in one day. It's not going to take you guys long, but I do recommend it. I'd give it probably like a 7 out of 10. Like, honestly, I enjoyed it. It added to Jurassic Park 3. I enjoyed the film. It's not my favorite Jurassic Park film. Obviously, Jurassic Park 1 is, but I love it. I love the Spinosaurus. I just think this one adds something. Like, you can read this and you can get a little bit more to that experience of watching that film. So, if you haven't read it, you can still find this on eBay. Usually not too much. I know some of them go for outrageous money, but This one's still reasonably priced, much like a new book, and most of the time the ones I saw were in good condition. But yeah, guys, until next time, for more Culz book reviews, click that link to your left. For more about us here at Culz Paranormal, click that link to your right. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe. And let us know, have you read the Jurassic Park 3 Junior novel? And is there one you want us to check out? Tell us in the comments below.